Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, chapter 9, Madhya Lila, verse number 115. We'll be continuing our reading. Ukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Dintarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we have been reading that how Caitanya Mahāprabhu arrived at Venkat Bhatt's house and how he had been through different places of pilgrimage in south of India, Tirupati and so many other places around it, and wherever he went, he managed to, he did, made all of them Vaishnavas from their faith towards Shiva. They all became just like Shiva, because Shiva is the biggest Vaishnav, and the other bhaktas was following Shiva, just calling Shiva's name. They also became Vaishnavas. Verse 115. भट्ट कहे कृष्ण नारायण एक ई स्वरूप कृष्णेते अधिक लीला वेदग्ध्यादि रूप. Venkat Bhatt said that Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. Verse 115. Verse 116 now. तार स्पर्शे नाही याय पति व्रता धर्म कौतुके Lakshmi chahena Krishnera sangama. Since Krishna and Narayan are the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna does not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was a great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. Purport. This is the answer to Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu's question, and from this we can understand that Venkat Bhatt knew the truth. He told Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu that Narayan is a form of Krishna associated with transcendental opulence. Although Krishna is two-armed and Narayan four-armed, there is no difference in the person. They are one and the same. Narayan is as beautiful as Krishna, but Krishna's pastimes are more sportive. It is not that the sportive pastimes of Krishna make him different from Narayan. Lakshmi's desiring to associate with Krishna was perfectly natural. In other words, it is understandable that a chaste woman wants to associate with her husband in all different dresses. Therefore, one should not criticize Lakshmi for wanting to associate with Krishna. Verse number 117. Siddhantas tva abhede api shrisha Krishna Swarupayoh Raseno Krishyate Krishna Rupam Esha Rasasthitah. Venkat Bhatt continued, according to transcendental realization, there is no difference between the forms of Narayan and Krishna. Yet in Krishna there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal mellow, and consequently he surpasses Narayan. This is the conclusion of transcendental mellows. This verse quoted by Venkat Bhatt is also found in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.2.59. Verse 118. Krishna Sanghe Pativrata Dharme Nahi Nasha Adhik Labh Paye Ar Ras Vilas. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the rasa dance. Verse 119. Vinodini Lakshmira Haya Krishna Abhilasha Ihate Kidosha Kena Kar Parihas. Venkat Bhatt further explained, Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is also an enjoyer of transcendental bliss. Therefore, if she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking so about this? Verse 120. Prabhu kahe dosh nahi iha ami jani Rasa na paila Lakshmi Shastre iha shuni. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I know that there is no fault on the part of the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter into the rasa dance. We hear this from the revealed scriptures. Verse 121. Nayam Shriyo Anga Unitanta Rateha Prasadaha Swar Yoshitam Nalina Gandha Rucham Kuto Anyaha Rasotsave Asya Bhuja Danda Grihita Kantha Labdha Shisham Ya Udgad Vraja Sundarinam. Vraja Sundarinam is of the beautiful gopis, the transcendental girls of the Brajabhumi. When Lord Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa lila, the gopis were embraced around the neck by Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or other consorts in the spiritual world, nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, girls whose bodily luster and aroma exactly resemble the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women, who may be very beautiful according to the material estimation. Purport, this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 47th chapter, verse number 60. So the beauty we see in this material world is nothing compared to what the transcendental beauty is. Verse number 122. Lakshmi kene na paila ihar ki karana tapakari kaiche Krishna paila shruti gana. But can you tell me why goddess of fortune Lakshmi could not enter the rasa dance? The authorities of Vedic knowledge could enter the dance and associate with Krishna. Verse 123. Nibrita marun mano aksha dridha yoga yujo ridiyan munaya upasate tad arayo api yayuh smaranat striya uragendra bhoga bhuja danda vishakta dhiyo vayam api te samahas samadrisho angrihi saroja sudhaha. Great sages conquer the mind and senses by practicing the mystic yoga system and controlling the breath. Thus, engaging in mystic yoga, they see the supersoul within their hearts and ultimately enter into impersonal Brahman. But even the enemies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead attain that position simply by thinking of the Supreme Lord. However, the damsels of Vraja, the gopis, being attracted by the beauty of Krishna, simply wanted to embrace him and his arms, which are like serpents. Thus the gopis ultimately tasted the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, we Upanishads can also taste the nectar of his lotus feet by following in the footsteps of the gopis. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 87, verse 23. Verse 124. Shruti paye Lakshmi na paye ithe ki karana bhatta kahe iha praveshite nar mora mana. Having been asked by Caitanya Mahaprabhu why the goddess of fortune could not enter into the rasa dance whereas the authorities on Vedic knowledge could, Venkat Bhatt replied, I cannot enter into the mysteries of this behavior. Verse 125. Ami jiva kshudra buddhi sahaje asthira ishwarera lila koti samudra gambhira. Venkat Bhatt then said, I am an ordinary human being. Since my intelligence is very limited and I am easily agitated, my mind cannot enter the deep ocean of the pastimes of the Lord. Verse 126. Tumi sakshat se Krishna jan nij karma yare janaha se jane tomar lila marma. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. You know the purport of your activities, and the person whom you enlighten can also understand your pastimes. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his pastimes cannot be understood by blunt material senses. One has to purify the senses by rendering transcendental loving service unto the Lord. When the Lord is pleased and reveals himself, one can understand the transcendental form, name, qualities and pastimes of the Lord, as we say, Gurna, Roop, Lila and Nam. This is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad 2.23 and Mundak Upanishad 3.2.3. Yam ivaisha vrinute tena labhyas tasyesha atma vivrinute tanum swam. Anyone who is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead can understand his transcendental name, qualities, form and pastimes. Verse number 127. Prabhu kahe Krishnera eka swabhava vilakshana swa madhurya sarva chitta kare akarshana. So when we read in the shlokas here in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhu kahe, who is the Prabhu who is speaking here? It is Lord Chaitanya. The Lord replied, Lord Krishna has a special characteristic. So Lord is telling by himself. So how wonderful it is. He attracts everyone's heart by the mellow of his personal conjugal love. Verse number 128. Vrajlokera bhave pahiye tanhar charana tanre ishwar kari nahi jane vrajajana. By following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Vrajalok or Golok Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. However, in that planet, the inhabitants do not know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse number 129. Keha Tandre Putra Gyane Udukhale Bandhe Keha Sakhe Gyane Jini Chade Chadhe Tandra Kandhe. Udukhale. Udukhale is the, like we say in Hindi, ukhal. This is the mortar and Damodar Lila is coming. So how beautiful that the pastimes suddenly take turn to that festival, which is or the time which is round the corner. There someone may accept him as son and sometimes bind him to a grinding mortar. Sometimes someone else may accept him as an intimate friend and attaining victory over him, playfully mount his shoulders, like his transcendental friends, the Gopa friends. Verse 130. Vrajendra Nandana Bali Tandre Jane Vrajajana Aishwarya Gyane Nahi Kona Sambandham Manana. The inhabitants of Rajbhumi know Krishna as the son of Maharaj Nanda and the king of Rajbhumi, and they consider that they can have no relationship with the Lord in the rasa of opulence. Verse 131. Vraja lokera bhave ye kare bhajan Say Jana Paye Vraje Vrajendra Nandan. One who worships the Lord by following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Rajabhumi attains him in the transcendental planet of Vraja, where he is known as the son of Maharaj Nanda. Purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The inhabitants of Rajabhumi or Golok Vrindavan know Krishna as the son of Maharaj Nanda. They do not accept him as Supreme Personality of Godhead, as people in general do. The Lord is the supreme maintainer of everyone and the chief personality among all personalities. In Rajabhumi, Krishna is certainly the center point of love, but no one knows him there as the supreme personality of Godhead. Rather, a person may know him as a friend, son, lover, or master. Love and servitude, friendship, parental love, and conjugal love. These are the 5 rasas. The Dasya, Shanta, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and the Madhuri rasas. A person engaged in devotional service may accept any one of these transcendental relationships, which is known as mellows or the rasa. When such a person reaches the perfectional stage, he returns home back to Godhead, back to Krishna in his pure spiritual identity. Verse number 132. Nayam Sukhapo Bhagavan Dehinam Gopika Sutah Jnaninam Chatma Bhutanam Yatha Bhakti Matam Iha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then quoted, the superior personality of Godhead Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service. But he is not easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realizations by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. Purport: this verse is also given in Madhya Lila 8.227, is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.21. So some verses are repeated also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Verse number 133. Shruti Gana Gopi Ganera Anugata Hena Rajeshwari Sutta Bhaje Gopi Bhav Lena. The authorities in the Vedic literature who are known as the Shruti Ganas worshipped Lord Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis and followed in their footsteps. Purport: the authorities in the Vedic literature who are known as the Shruti Ganas desired to enter Lord Krishna's rasa dance. Therefore, they began to worship the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis. In the beginning, however, they were unsuccessful when they could not when they could not enter the dance simply by thinking of Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis. They actually accepted bodies like those of the gopis. They even took birth in Vrajabhumi just like the gopis and consequently became engrossed in the ecstasy of the gopis' love. In this way, they were allowed to enter into the Rasa Leela dance of the Lord. Verse 134. Bhayantere gopi deha vraje yabe paila se dehe Krishna sange rasa krida kaila. The personified authorities on the Vedic hymns acquired bodies like those of the gopis and took birth in Vrajabhumi. In those bodies, they were allowed to enter into Lord's Rasa Leela dance. Verse 135. Gopa jati Krishna gopi prayasi tanhara devi va anya stri Krishna nakare angikar. Lord Krishna belongs to the cowherd community and the gopis are the dearmost lovers of Krishna. However, the wives of the denizens of the heavenly planets are most opulent within the material world. Neither they nor any other women in the material universe can acquire Krishna's association. Verse 136. Lakshmi chahe se dehe Krishnera sangama gopika anuga hena nakaila bhajana. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, wanted to enjoy Krishna, at the same time retain her spiritual body in the form of Lakshmi. However, she did not follow in the footsteps of the gopis in her worship of Krishna. So, what does Lord want? Lord just wants the surrender. Verse 137. Anya dehe na paiye rasa vilasa ateva nayam shloka kahe Vedavyas. Vedavyas is Dvaipayan Vedavyas. Wrote all the Vedas and everything else in Badrinath in Badrikashram. In his cave. He wrote everything in the cave, and I was watching a vlog where it was shown that Vedavyas, after writing everything, he didn't wanted them to be copied or misused, so he turned all the Vedas into stone, and that is still like that in that cave in Badrinath. Verse 137. Anya dehe na payi rasa vilas atev nayam shloka kahe Vedavyas. Vedavyas, the supreme authority on Vedic literature, composed the verse beginning Nayam Sukhapo Bhagavan, because no one can enter into the Rasa Leela dance in any body other than that of a gopi. Purport: this verse confirms a verse of Bhagavad-Gita 9.25. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitrivritah bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti madhyajno apimam. Lord Krishna said, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. In the material world, every conditioned soul changes his material body again and again. But when the spirit soul is purified of all material coverings, there is no longer a chance of his accepting a material body. Such a soul then remains in his original spiritual identity, a state that is possible to achieve only by the understanding Krishna in truth through the practice of Krishna consciousness, as Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita 4.9. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvatah tyaktva deham punar janma nam naiti nam namam eti. So Arjuna, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, takes his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjun, only when one regains his original spiritual body can he enter into the spiritual kingdom. As far as the Rasalila pastimes of the Lord are concerned, it is futile for one who is within the material world to attempt to imitate the Lord's dances. One has to attain a spiritual body like that of a gopi to enter into the pastimes of the Rasalila. In the Nayam Sukhapo verse, the devotees are referred to as Bhaktimat, that is fully engaged in devotional service and devoid of material contamination. One cannot enter into Krishna's Rasalila dance simply by artificially imitating it or artificially thinking oneself a Sakhi and dressing up like one. Krishna's Rasalila dance is completely spiritual. It has nothing to do with material contamination. Therefore, no one can enter into this pastime by artificial material means. That is the instruction of the Nayam Sukhapo verse, and it must be strictly understood. Verse number 138. Purve bhattera mane ekar shila abhiman Sri Narayana Hayana Swayam Bhagwan. Before this explanation was given, Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu Venkat Bhatt thought that Sri Narayan was a supreme personality of Godhead. So we can see here, Swayam is personally, that in this verse Swayam is regarded as personally, and Bhagwan is a supreme personality of Godhead. Verse 139. Tanhar bhajan sarvopari kakshahaya Shri Vaishnave ara bhajan ei sarvopari haya. Thinking in this way, Venkat Bhatt believed that worship of Narayan was a supreme form of worship, superior to all other processes of devotional service, for it was followed by the Sri Vaishnava disciples of Ramanujacharya. Verse 140. Ei tanar garva prabhu karite khandana parihas dware uthaya eteka vachana. Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu had understood the misconception of Venkat Bhattas, and to correct it, the Lord talked so much in a joking way. Verse 141. Prabhu kahe bhatta tumi na kariya samshaya Swayam Bhagwan Krishna eita nishchaya. The Lord then continued, my dear Venkat Bhatt, please do not continue doubting. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is the conclusion of the Vedic literatures. So A is this in Bengali and Ta is the. This is something I always wanted to know. Verse 142, Krishnera Vilas Murti Shri Narayan Ataiv Lakshmi Adyera Hare Tenha Mana. Lord Narayan, the opulent form of Krishna, attracts the minds of the goddess of fortune and her followers. Verse 143, Ete chamsha kalah pumsah Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. All these incarnations of Godhead are either plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions of the Purush avatars. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself in every age. He protects the world through his different features when the world is disturbed by the enemies of Indra. Purport: this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.28. This is a very famous verse. Verse number 144. Narayan haite Krishnera asadharan guna ataiv Lakshmir Krishne Trishna anukshana. Because Krishna has 4 extraordinary qualities not possessed by Lord Narayan, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi always desires his company. Purport: Lord Narayan has 60 transcendental qualities. Over and above these, Krishna has 4 extraordinary transcendental qualities absent in Lord Narayan. These 4 qualities are his wonderful pastimes, which are compared to an ocean. Second, his association in the circle of supreme devotees in conjugal love, that is the gopis. Third, his playing on the flute, whose vibration attracts the 3 worlds. And fourth, his extraordinary beauty, which surpasses the beauty of 3 worlds. Lord Krishna's beauty is unequaled and unsurpassed. So we'll continue our reading from verse number 145 next time. Thank you for connecting with us. Hariyam Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.